Friends, we've all been there. You open your credit card statement, see a charge for something ridiculous like artisanal shoelaces and think, who approved this expense? Well, imagine that feeling, but instead of shoelaces, it's genetically altering animals with your tax dollars. And not just a few bucks, we're talking 10 million smackaroos. That's right, in 2024 alone, the American government spent an amount of money that would make even a Kardashian blush on creating transgender animals. Now I know what you're thinking. John, are you sure you haven't been hitting the prop room again? I wish I was, folks. But this, unfortunately, is all too real. Thanks to the tireless work of the White Coat Waste Project, a watchdog group dedicated to exposing government waste in animal experimentation, we now know that millions of your hard-earned dollars are being funneled into research that, frankly, sounds like it was cooked up in a writer's room brainstorming session for a Black Mirror episode. This isn't about being pro or anti-science, it's about accountability. It's about asking tough questions about where our money is going and demanding transparency. Because when the government starts playing Dr. Moreau with our tax dollars, it's time to ask, are we funding groundbreaking research or just throwing money at a wall and seeing what sticks? And more importantly, can't we find a better use for 10 million bucks? $10 million. It's a lot of dough, folks. Think of all the good we could be doing with that kind of cash. We could finally fix that pothole on Elm Street that's been swallowing tires since the Bush administration. We could fund actual life-saving medical research, the kind that helps humans. We could even build a giant statue of Dolly Parton riding a bald eagle, which, let's be honest, would be a much better use of taxpayer money. But instead, we're funding research that's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be investing in scientific research, of course we should. But this particular line of inquiry, creating transgender animals, seems like a classic case of scientific curiosity gone wild. It's the research equivalent of that friend who spends all their time perfecting their sourdough starter, while their apartment is a complete disaster. Putting aside the financial absurdity for a moment, let's talk about the ethical elephant in the room. Because experimenting on animals, no matter how noble the supposed goal, always raises serious ethical questions. And when you add in the complex and frankly not fully understood science of gender identity, you're wading into a moral minefield. Animal welfare advocates have been sounding the alarm for years about the often cruel and inhumane conditions in animal testing labs, and these concerns are only amplified when we're talking about experiments that involve surgically altering animals' genitalia and manipulating their hormonal balances. It's Frankensteinian, folks, and not in a good way. We're talking about sentient beings here, creatures that feel pain and fear just like we do, and while some might argue that these experiments are justified in the name of scientific progress, I think we need to ask ourselves, at what cost? And is it really worth it to subject these animals to potentially painful and unnecessary procedures for research that may or may not yield any tangible benefits for humans? This isn't just about animal welfare, it's about government transparency and accountability. When our elected officials are spending our money on research that most people would consider outlandish, we deserve to know why. We deserve a full accounting of how these funds are being used, what the scientific justification is, and what the potential benefits are. And that's why the work of organizations like the White Coat Waste Project is so important. They're holding our government's feet to the fire, demanding answers and shining a light on wasteful spending that would otherwise go unnoticed. So what can we do about it? We can start by demanding better from our elected officials. We can contact our representatives and senators and tell them that we expect them to be good stewards of our tax dollars. We can support organizations that are fighting for transparency and accountability in government. And we can keep asking questions, folks, because sunshine is the best disinfectant.